Welcome back to the Newcomers Podcast, people, where I explore what it means to be an immigrant with immigrants like myself. Today, I'm talking with Selene Ricart, and this conversation was one of the deepest conversations I've had in a long time because we basically talk about language, and how language is such a big part of how we hold on to our identity and culture, and how literally in the process of basically trying to adapt into a new culture, we have to lose part of ourselves. But then we also go on to talk about how to be a better, more confident immigrant. Enjoy. I'm going to kick off with what you were talking about in the pre-show, where you talk about your boss, who's French.
Yeah,
he
speaks
speaks
French. He
French. Oh, okay, he
understands
speaks
French.
French. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about how maybe the way you write stuff is based off your, like, because you speak Spanish,
Yeah.
and that is like
Yeah.
that. I'm still kind of reeling from that because
I know.
I'm beginning to wonder if there's a way I write to that's influenced by, my home country or the language I speak, or the fact that I'm Nigerian and I probably speak English, Igbo, some French, and some Hausa.
Well, that's a lot. to start with, it's a lot. That's great.
But that's interesting, honestly, and it's kind of goes to the post that you put up, that where we start talking about this episode,
Yeah.
which is basically how language is a way which we hold on to our identity, our culture, or some memory of who we are as before we move to a new country.
Yeah, and even how worried you get when you feel that you're starting to loosen it. It's like, for me, I will first tell you and tell the audience the story. I was just, when we started talking a few minutes ago, I was just telling you that I'm so detailed when I write. And my boss was like, you know what? I feel like your paragraphs are usually really long, and you explain everything in detail, and that might be connected to your Spanish, because in Spanish, as in French, you need way more words to say something. And even if you check translation, right, sometimes you see a post that is in French and in English, and like the French is like 5 paragraphs, and maybe English is 2, and you're like, what's going on? It's exactly the same in Spanish. So I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Maybe my brain is wired in a different way just because Spanish is my mother tongue. So I feel that I need more words to explain something, that I can't do it just with a couple of words. I can make it simple, but at the same time, I feel like that's something that is beautiful about the language, because it, like how we connect with others, right? It's not just based on the words that are coming out from our mouth. It's how we live the language through our identity, through our culture, through, yes, our emotion and the roots, and where we grew up and things like that. So that post that you mentioned, I was saying, like, it's like you get so happy when you move here. Your English starts getting better. You even incorporate some slang. You are like, oh, I'm getting it. I'm finally getting it. And I remember that my best friend, she's Mexican. She lives in San Francisco, and she said once, you know what? Today I made my she's some sort of teacher, she's a nutritionist, but she has a class, and she said, I made my patients, like my students, laugh today in English. And she was like, that's amazing, because that means that I get it now. When you're able to make somebody laugh in a language that is not yours, you're like, oh yes, I conquered the world now. I can say something that, it's funny. And I feel like you're getting just really happy because your English is improving. And then you're like, okay, wait, how do you say this in your own language? For me, one of the first words were rag. My mom was here visiting me, and I wanted to say that something was there and around the rag. And I'm like, okay, how do you say this? And I'm like, you know how you start tricking yourself. I'm like, well, in Argentina the weather is really hot, we don't have rags, so it's not a word that is part of my vocabulary, and then I'm like, okay, if it's not rag, it's not carpet, it's something like that. What's the word? And then it took me time to think about it. And then it was the same with certain fruits, and with like grapefruit, for example. And I'm like, okay, I don't eat grapefruit. That is why I can't remember the word. And like at some point I said, okay, no, I'm kind of losing my language because I'm thinking in
Yeah.
English now. What's going on with my language? And if I lose part of my language, am I losing part of myself? Is it
Yeah.
like, in detriment of my culture? Is it something that I'm not maybe strong enough with myself and keeping it up? And, I'm being tied to those roots. And it's just like that happiness, but at the same time of speaking in your second language, but you're like, oh, am I missing myself? So yeah, I would say I'm 100% sure that this is something that all immigrants go
Oh
through.
yeah.
And like
Oh
you
yeah.
you you speak many languages, so even if you're not an immigrant, but you're first gen or second gen, and you grew up with your parents teaching you other languages, you're like, okay, so who am I? Right? Because
Yeah, because
it,
language is like a pillar that you kind of
yes,
hold. It guides you to where to go because it tells you how things are done. It helps you understand what's going on around you, and it helps you express yourself.
yeah,
you know and for an immigrant who's moved at a certain age, so you've been expressing yourself and you've built an identity using language as the driver for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. But then at some point you drop all that and start trying to set into a new place with a new language structure. And so, every now and then you go back to that old self and you're like, okay, what am I letting go of every single time that I do this here? Like, what am I becoming? Who am I becoming? I mean, you could argue that you're becoming a better version of yourself. You could argue that too. But again, there's also still that worry, like you said, about what am I losing in the process? Like what am I losing in the process? Who am I becoming? Like who am I becoming? What am I losing in the process? What am I losing? And so I don't know if there's an answer. I just think there's
no,
just
me neither.
dealing with it.
Me neither. And that's always like it's part of the journey, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like, what can you do? Yeah, maybe I can watch. Some people were saying, oh, watch shows in Spanish, right?
Oh,
Read books in Spanish. And I'm
oh
like,
God.
yeah, I can do that. But at the same time, on like my daily basis, I'm an English person. Like I'm
Yes.
speaking this language, and my brain keeps thinking and going through not just thought but processes and structures and everything in English.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's tricky, it's challenging, but at the same time it's beautiful because you're like, okay, I even have different ways to say things. And sometimes if I'm, let's say I'm talking to a Latinx, right? A Latino or Latina, I'm talking to somebody. I might just start saying certain words in English, but then I'm like, when I want to say something specific, I will say it in Spanish. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's like you get it. You feel, I feel like you feel at ease in your mother tongue.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a different feeling, right?
Yeah.
Words sound different, and yeah, I feel it's just that.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to come back to what you said about it being beautiful because I think that's a really good point. But staying on that thing you said about being comfortable, it's not like it's because it's who you've been. It has, words are not just words. I usually tell people that words, we usually the modernization of the world in a way, and where we've optimized everything into binaries, where it's either this or that and numbers
Yes.
and stuff. It feels like along the way we've maybe not forgotten, because I think there are some people that know that it has that power. That words are powerful. Words have things encoded in them,
Yeah.
emotions. It's just like words are like music. It's just a lower version of what music does. I feel like music is a higher vibrating frequency. Words are just a bit lower. So so when you say you're comfortable, because yeah, because that's what the words do. The words have emotions that allow you to be yourself. Because when if you speak in your mother tongue, you can say things without worrying about how you sound
Yes, exactly. And it's
or
like,
worrying if you be understood.
yeah, and it's like words can raise you, break you. Like it's,
Yes.
it's I'm a fan of Brené Brown and how how much power, because this is the word that you have chosen, words have, and why we should say certain words instead of others, and understand, hey,
Yeah.
this word has a meaning, and
Yeah.
maybe you want to say this other thing, and you are not using the right words. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have this ease and this comfort of your own language, it's also uh, gives you this idea that you feel at home,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what you say, other people will understand you. But when
Yes.
you are communicating in a second, third language, fourth language, sometimes you want to say something, but your brain is telling you to say something different. And you are just speaking certain words, and then you're like, oh my goodness, no, that's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to say this other thing. I feel like at the beginning when I moved here, I suffer a lot with trying to find that confidence, and I was like, oh no, I was telling my husband all the time, he's Canadian, I was telling him, my English is so bad, oh my goodness, people don't understand me. It's like, this is the land of immigrants. He has an Indian heritage, but his parents used to live in the UK. It's like, you have people like that everywhere here. We all have accents, so you don't worry about how you
I love
sound. Your
that.
English is your English is good, and it's good enough, and you need to have that confidence. But you have that thing inside of your head that
Yeah.
you're like, oh no, I'm so clever in my language. I would like to have that, that's a stream
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
English. But yeah, sometimes those things just live inside you, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not the
Mm-hmm.
real you. You're
Mm-hmm.
just telling yourself a story because you don't
Yes.
feel confident. It's just
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to what you're just similar to what your husband said and what you said earlier on about, it's linked to that thing about what you said about it being beautiful. Because, you know, I had this lady on the podcast, Maroro Ziemba, she's from Zimbabwe, I believe. And she talks about how she can speak English, her native language. She also can speak French. She lived in Paris for a bit. And she says that the beauty of this thing we're talking about now, this duality that exists in your brain because you now have your native tongue and English battling in your brain, is that you start to see the world from different perspectives. Because language itself is a window through which we view the world. And the words we use, like we said about Brené Brown, is the words you use, they put a filter on the whatever the context which you're talking about. And just being able to have different language in your head, what it allows you to do, you see different ways of seeing something. And maybe there's some
Absolutely.
magic in you finding a way to bring that together. I don't know what that is, but I think the point for me is that that ability to see the world from different lenses is a superpower I think immigrants who speak multiple languages have. It's not talked about enough, which is why I'm like, yes, it's a struggle, but I think it's also a huge strength when used well, because you can understand what the English person is saying, but when a Spanish starts to complain that I don't like what this person did, you understand why they don't did it, because that word they used has a different context in the Spanish language, and that thing means that you're much more empathetic. And we're talking about what kind of world do we want to build in the future based on looks like because the world we're living in right now, it looks like the rules that were set up years ago aren't exactly working. Maybe the rules we need to build start from empathy, just understanding each other and just saying, okay, these things are not exactly working, but I understand the other person because I'm an immigrant, I can speak from my perspective. I can speak from the Canadian perspective to some extent. And maybe that's a strength. It's a huge
Absolutely.
strength we have.
Yeah, I would say two things. First, something that I've noticed when when you're an immigrant or first gen or like I said before, but you're kind of related to different languages, you have the ability not just to be more empathetic, but also to listen. I feel that sometimes people are rushing a lot, and I'm like, I keep telling like my Canadian family or like some of my Canadian friends, hey, but wait, let's listen first to what this person wants to say, you know? We're not running a marathon. So let's listen because when you listen and you make that pause, you allow others to not just go through their thoughts and being able to be with, I don't know, I would say at some sort of peace of saying,
Mm,
okay, yeah, this person is looking at me in my eyes, is really listening.
mm,
It's also this possibility. There is a quote that I love that is like first understanding, then adjustment. So if
mm,
you first listen, you can understand what the other person is saying. And then if you're having a discussion or you're at work, whatever, you can adjust after, but if
mm,
you're first not listening, you will not understand what that person, what the the message that they want to
mm,
convey, right?
mm, mm,
And then, oh my goodness, if you want to adjust immediately and say, no, we're going to do this or that, or you want to, jump on ideas, or even and I have to be honest with this, when people, sometimes, not always, but sometimes when people notice that English is not your first language, you start talking, and instead of listening, they kind of complete your sentences. It's like, oh, yeah, yeah, you want to say that. We're like, no, wait,
no, just let me
please.
talk.
Yeah, I want to give you my point. Then you will understand me, and then we can adjust together. But like, don't rush. So I feel it's like people who speak different languages, they listen more, they are more empathetic. And also, to come back to this idea that you are saying, they are way more adaptable because you need to know how to deal with certain things. It's not just
Yeah.
dealing with two languages, you're dealing with different languages, different cultures, way
Yep.
of saying things, ways of acting, even seeing the world, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it, again, it's beautiful, it's challenging, but it's beautiful because you're able to grow a lot based on all this like knowledge that is kind of flying around you, right? Sometimes you are part of it, sometimes you are not, you're like, oh, this is like a lot, but you are kind of like, okay, let's enjoy the journey because it's a whole journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and yeah, gosh, yeah. I just wish people recognize that more because sometimes it feels like we don't recognize that. We just like you said, like how where once you have an accent, people either assume that you're not that smart. That's one weakness that happens, or they start completing your sentences, and the funny part about that completing sentences is that you sometimes change the narrative by doing that because that's not what maybe I
Yes.
wanted to say X, and sometimes human being just goes like, oh yeah, okay, well this could work, and we just can, especially if the power is a bit imbalanced, like that sort of thing. But let's kid out on to more interesting things, which is more favorite positive things, which is I'm very interested in finding out. You have a little kid now.
Yes.
How are you handling all this? Like I mean, she's the baby and not talking and all that stuff yet. But I can imagine as every parent, you're already thinking about, okay, the kid is going to grow up speaking English and a
Yeah.
bit of Spanish and stuff. But like,
I, I'm just talking to her. I'm only using Spanish with her. I don't
beautiful.
use English words with her. And my husband, even though he's not bilingual, after 5 years, he knows a lot of Spanish words. So he does his best to keep it, you know, just Spanish for now, because I'm like, when she starts daycare, her life will be mainly
English.
English, right? But I want her to be as connected to my roots as possible. One of the first things that I did after she was born last year was apply, sent all the papers to the Argentinian embassy so she could have her citizenship.
That's so
And
nice.
it's like, for some people, it's like, oh, why? Like, does she need it? Like, the Canadian passport is better than the Argentinian. I'm like, but I want her not just to be Canadian. I want her to be Argentinian. I want her to, to have that sense of pride that I have. I always say, when I
Gosh,
meet new people, I'm a proud Latina. I'm like, I know that there are a lot of things that are not okay and not good in Latin American countries, but one of the things that give
stop there.
me
Hold on.
pride, yeah, yeah,
Hold on. No, don't do
yeah,
that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to
yeah,
yourself because no, why? Here's why I say that. Every culture has good and bad sides.
absolutely, that's true.
Even the
You're right.
countries
You're
we
right.
love, even the countries we love have their good and bad sides. So
Yeah,
let's not gaslight ourselves and say,
yeah,
like, I mean, yes, our countries have the bad sides about them, and that every country has that. I just want to
yeah.
just add that. Sorry, I cut you,
Yes. No,
but
that's
so
absolutely true. No, it's absolutely true. It's just that we're so used sometimes of people say, "Oh, but didn't this happen there? Didn't?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but
exactly,
if you could go there, you would see how nice, how kind people are, how solidarity is part of, it is something that runs through our veins. How
yeah,
the sense of family and friendship is so strong. Sometimes I joke with my Canadian friends and I say, "Oh, friendship here is different, and I hate
very,
making appointments."
very.
I'm like, and they start laughing, and I say, "Yeah, I have to make an appointment to see you, and you're my friend, and in my country it's not like that. You don't make appointments
Yeah,
to see your friends or your family. You just text them or call them, and you say, 'Hey, I'm around.' Or sometimes you don't
exactly.
do it. You just go knock the door and you're like, 'Hey, I'm here.' Let's, we have I have here my mate, that is like something that we drink in Argentina. So you
Yeah,
wouldn't go to Timmins and have coffee, but like you will drink something together. You will share a meal. But it's like, I hate this idea of making appointments with people I love, because it should be something so easy. Um, I love my country, and I love all Latin American countries, and I feel that there are a lot of things that are really good there. Yeah, we have, as I said, we have the bad stuff too, but that's everywhere, right? And
yeah,
some things can work better here, but others work better there. So I want my daughter to be a proud Canadian Latina too, to
yeah,
be aware of where her mom came from, and of course where her dad came from, but how all the things that I lived in my country for like 30 years transform me into who I am, because it's not just like the last 5 years that I've been in Canada. I grew up there, I was
mm-hmm,
raised
mm-hmm,
there,
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
understood some certain rules and regulations, and I had a way of seeing the world there. And then, of
mm-hmm.
course, I kept growing and understanding and cultivating myself here. But I want her to be connected to that. I don't want her, and I'm 100% sure that all parents who are immigrants are like, oh, sometimes it's tough. It's tough because you're here, you're just English is your wall, and then they go to school, they go to daycare, they go to sports, they have their extracurricular, activities,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's easier to communicate in English. But I've also heard of people saying, hey, just do the best to keep your mother tongue. Do the best, because if you
it's
don't,
hard
then
though.
it's
It's
way more,
hard.
yeah,
It's
then
hard
it gets
though.
more difficult and difficult. At some point the kids are just like uh speaking in English. So yeah, she says a few words, and all of them except one are in Spanish. She says ball. She started saying ball last week because
Ah.
I bought a ball pit for her. So so now she says ball. And I'm like, that word that like my country, these crazy things that come to my mind. Ball in my country is something so important because like the World Cup and how much we love
Yeah,
football, because I will not
exactly.
say it's soccer. So I'm like, at some point she needs to start saying ball in Spanish because it's a word that is important for us. But I will leave it as it is
Gosh.
because she's 1 year old, so it's okay. She says like 5, 6 words plus names in Spanish. The rest can be in English. A few words in English. It's okay. But yeah, at some point she needs to say that word.
You know,
You know, and
gosh.
it's crazy. Then we are again thinking how much weight certain words have, because
Exactly.
maybe
That's why I was laughing.
you
That's why I
know
was laughing because
if it would be ball pit, it's another thing. But bald, it's like that's the word that a ball
like
for us is
you
important.
can't joke with that. Like you can't go to
Yeah,
an Argentine family reunion and call it in English wherever it's like
yeah,
football is like a religion there.
exactly, exactly. I'm like the World Cup is coming next year, so let's try to say as many football related words in Spanish. But yeah, that's
Y-
just part is what you say when something is so close to your culture,
Yep.
you care a lot. It's just that
Yeah.
you care a lot.
Yeah. 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 And you know, that thing you say about when people say it's just a passport. It's just a piece of paper. I'm just like, no, don't say that.
No,
It's not just a piece of paper. It's not. It's
it's not.
heritage, it's identity, it's part of who you are and how you walk around the world. And so, because people say that a lot, like I see that people say a lot, you know, people's, and I maybe it's just lack of
Hmm.
understanding. Maybe it's just one of those things that we just like to say because we want to just make things feel like they're not much of an issue, you know. But identity is such a big thing, especially I know that it's a really these things like you can't just tell someone it's just not it's not a piece of paper. It's my history, like going back hundreds of years. And even though I have moved to another country, and I know that going forward, what I've done is I've changed the trajectory of my story.
Hmm.
I make
Yeah,
this joke that, for example, it's very possible that 5 generations down, all my ancestors will be Latinos, for example, because all it takes is one of my kids to marry a Latino. They give birth to kids. One of the kids are Latino caste, half castes. One of the Latinos says, "Oh no," the Latino half caste says, "No, I'm still going to marry another Latino." They do that. By the time that happens, like 3 generations or 4 generations, they'll look back and say, "Oh, we used to have a grandfather that was Nigerian." People are like, "No, that's not possible." But that's how,
yeah,
that's how the world, And so when someone says it's just paper, and I'm like, "No, it's not just paper. It's not just paper. There are things that you see in
exactly.
the family that have come from all those things that have happened. So, like when just talk about your daughter, like it's not just a passport to her; it's her heritage that she's holding on to when she gets that passport.
Yeah, and like even you made me think about like my ancestors and my grandma, things that we do uh, just to keep that heritage alive, right? For
Yep.
me, I'm living in Canada, right? But for me, pasta and bread are always from scratch because that is how my grandma taught us. Everybody in my family cook, and we came from my great grandparents immigrated from my mom's side from Italy, Spain, and Denmark. So I still have, I was like 3 years old when my great grandpa, my Italian great grandpa, passed away, but I still have, that kind of memory of him with a knife cutting like the pasta. And you're like, yeah, we have machines and all of that. And I can use the machines. My grandma would die if she knows that I'm not using a knife. But I still make pasta and bread from scratch because that was kind of a religion, right? It's part of your
Yeah.
heritage. It's what your
Yeah.
grandparents, your great grandparents taught to your
Gosh.
grandparents, and then you keep doing it. So all the women in my family, we all make pasta from scratch because that is how my grandma used to do it. And even though she's turning 85 this year and she can't do it anymore, we try to make it in the same way that she used to, right? And you try to replicate the sauce and all of that. So of course that a passport is not just paper. It's all these things that come with you, with your memory, with your culture, with your heritage. It's all the things that those people that were traveling the world, right? Because I'm saying, okay, I'm in Canada now, but I was born in Argentina, and my great grandparents were born in Italy, in Spain, in Denmark, and not just my mom's side. Why my dad's side is like France and Germany, and you're like all those immigrants coming together to our, in this case, Argentina. And now I'm starting a life in a different country, but I still have so much of them in me, and I want my daughter to have that too. And my husband's side, his four grandparents were born in India, so for me it's also important for her to get used to not just Indian cuisine, but also their rituals and
Yeah.
their way
Yeah.
of doing things. I want her to grow up not just being Canadian. I want her to understand, okay, I'm living here, but all these people made all these changes to their lives and did all these sacrifices for their
Yeah.
families to have a better life, and that is how you're here now. But you need to be not just respectful, but there is some sort of reverence of like saying thank you, of honoring the people who came before you, and
Mm-hmm.
to keep that legacy going.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
feel that for immigrants it's just, oh, I move away from my country and I'm starting from scratch and I want to be 100% Canadian. I understand because some I will say older people than me who are in their 70s, they keep telling me, oh, sometimes we were worried about using our mother tongue in public and all of that.
Yeah.
And I
It was a
understand
different
that
time.
they're a
Yeah.
different world, right? But now it's like, okay, that we left that behind. We need to be proud of who we are,
Yeah.
and honor those who came before us.
Yeah. Because why I think this thing you're saying is very important is because I think it's humans might not everyone will agree with this what I'm about to say right now. But and I'll start with this. First of all, I think humans are unrepeatable models. So every human is unique
Yeah.
and different. And when that human dies, no matter what you do, you can't recreate that human anymore. So every human being that passes through Earth, you know, when they die, they go away, and that particular, let's use software model, that software model is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. I think that's why deep inside us, heritage and legacy are part, because I feel like that's us trying to some extent, hold on to that unrepeatable part of our humanity and the people that have come before us. Because I mean, just think about like your granddad now, or I think about my mom or my dad, or people that have gone on. Like no matter what happens, I can't get them back again in that way. And so you hold on to the little things and then you try to pass that on. And here's the funny part is that thing changes as it's passed down, which is that
Yes.
unrepeatability of the human spirit. And I feel like while you're talking, that's what came to my mind. Is like, I feel like that's part of us. Like that's part of why we hold on to these things, because we some sort of know that when your granddad has gone, like no matter what you do, no one's going to make pasta exactly like how he used to make pasta. But what we can do is hold on to that memory of how he used to make pasta and make our own version of how he made pasta and bread. And then that thing just keeps going on and on. But it's such a meta thing. It's like I don't know.
It is. And and Isn't that like wonderful of how
Yeah.
in a good way we are I know that attachment, the word attachment has so many connotations and we are talking about that, right? But like, isn't that something wonderful to be attached to say
Yes.
I still I want this, you know? I remember like last year I was like I was telling my mom I grew up with my grandma making some sort of like honey cookies. I think it was a Danish recipe that she learned from my great grandma, and I was missing in it, you know. And I really wanted to eat them. My mom was not here; she was in Argentina, and she was like, you know what, I can try to see if she remembers the recipe, because I started getting, you know, angry with myself, with my family, saying why nobody wrote this recipe. Like, we are all bakers, we are all cooks, somebody needed to do this, why do I have to think about it, you know? And my mom was like, okay, let's see, maybe she can remember. So she took all the ingredients that she knew that they were needed, and they made them, and then she said, okay, we use all of this, and they turned out pretty well. Like, I think they are similar. So I follow her recipe. Uh, Her recipe was for, I don't know, like 200, because I'm like cookies, and I'm like, of course, my grandma has, you know, we are over 10 between like grandkids and great grandkids. It makes sense with a big family. And when I made them, I baked them, and I started eating the first one. I started crying like a kid,
Oh.
like a child, because I'm like, yeah, this is what it used to taste. Maybe it was not exactly like that, but it's like, you know, it's like that
Yeah.
connection
Yeah.
with your feelings, with your inner child, with your family, with things that made you happy once, and you want
Yeah.
to replicate them. And it's true what you say. I'm 100% sure that we keep changing things, um, but it's like a ritual, right? It's like a ritual that we do to keep things alive, and it doesn't matter if the ritual we started with the flour, or the, you know, the eggs with the sugar, or if it was egg with butter first and then you had to add the sugar. Like, it doesn't matter, it's just
Oh
the
gosh,
ritual.
you're making me
It's
emotional.
your
God.
connection, right? It's your connection. So yeah, it, it's more than language, it's more than family, it's more than identity, it's something bigger,
Yeah.
and that's fantastic,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. It is. It's life. It's literally just life
Life, yeah,
going
yeah,
on from person to person and living. And because the thing immigration does is that it forces us to come out of our comfort zone and move to somewhere new, and then we have to
yeah,
start thinking of the things we took for granted, because cultural rituals, the food, the memories, we took them for granted. So immigration forces us to kind of take a hard look and go like, this isn't funny,
yeah,
we need to do better.
exactly. And even now that you say things that we take for granted, that's something that I talk a lot about with my Canadian circle, my Canadian friends. It's like sometimes I'm like, oh man, you take so many things for granted, you know. Having, just to talk about like objects, but even situations, I can talk about an object and say, hey, this thing that you have here, it would take, I don't know, years for some of my friends back home to get it,
to
but I
to
can
get it.
always talk, I kind of always talk about, like, you know, situations, or saying things like, you know, being in a country that is financially stable. It's something that nobody in my family or my friends would ever envision, because we grew up in a country that is not, you know. So
Yeah.
you think about from the small thing, and you are like, oh, these people take this for granted, and my friends would love to have this, but then you think about your country and other things, and you're like, oh, you know. um and even though I don't want to make comparisons, because to countries, different people, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you, I just, sometimes I just want to for Canadians to understand how beautiful the country is, and how much diversity contributes and immigrants contribute to the
Yeah.
country. It still exists. I remember that I once wrote something about that. It still exists, that myth about the ideal immigrant. You are somebody who, you don't say too much. You just live your life. You don't look at your neighbor. You're kind of like, okay, this person who lives inside of a box. When you start speaking out or saying certain things, some people are like, okay, go back to your country. Some
Yeah.
people said that to me. They even like, yeah, message me on LinkedIn after like a post, say, if you don't like this, why don't you go back to your country? Well, I don't feel that is, that's not the conversation that we need to have. But I understand that some people might think that immigration is not good, but we do contribute a lot. And this country was built by immigrants. That's the reality. And it will keep growing on immigrants, even though like they can cut numbers or whatever can happen with the federal government, like this country was built by immigrants, and everybody that is coming here is not coming to steal something or to, I don't know, or to make you, if you're Canadian, to make you feel less or things like that. Um, Immigrants bring, innovation. They bring lots of passion. Sometimes people ask me, "Oh, how do you know?" I will give you a short example. When I was on my previous roles at a different company, people used to ask me, "Oh, how do you know to do that?" Because it's kind of not part of your field. And I'm like, my dear, I'm coming from a country that you need to know everything. You have to do everything, learn everything, because if you don't, you
You lose your
will
job.
not survive.
Yeah.
It's just that. So you learn everything that you can, and that's wonderful, because then you have the resources, you have the abilities, you are born already with talents and gifts. But yeah, it's a funny thing, right? It's like some people still think that immigrants don't contribute enough, and I feel like they're usually so talented and so hardworking, and it honestly, it breaks my heart to see people that that have their degrees, and they are overqualified for their work, or doctors and nurses driving Ubers and all of that. You're like, oh, they deserve better. They deserve
Yes.
better. They could
Yeah.
be contributing so much more to the country. So yeah, it's a funny thing how you can open certain doors, but not all of them. It's like, okay, you come until here, wait behind the fence. It's just that.
Yeah. It's hmm. It's like, sometimes I just feel like politicians don't help.
with
Politicians,
with
they
their
don't help.
comments, yeah, and
Yeah,
their
exactly.
decisions, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they don't help. Some of them don't help. They make some very interesting remarks that just lead to things that, which is why we are dealing with what we're dealing with as a country right now, where it's just what it is. I think in the end is just we keep doing what we can do. Um, and we just keep doing the work that needs to be done. Honestly,
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
just keep doing the
And
work that needs to be done.
we keep advocating
Yes,
for our people. And then for our people, I mean, like, you will keep advocating for immigrants,
yes,
you
yeah.
keep explaining how much they do, and what they do. And it's also this thing that you need to kind of empower immigrants to understand that because they are here, they can speak up. It's not that, oh no, like, no, I will not say something because I'm new to the country, and maybe it's that I don't know the rules. And no, my dear, you are here, you are part of this country, you are contributing to it, you decided to move here. So
Mm-hmm.
even though maybe you feel that you don't belong, because belonging, it's a feeling that takes time. And
Yes.
even I, maybe I don't 100% feel that I belong yet. You have the power, you have the chance, you have the opportunity to keep making changes to your life, to your the life of your community, of your neighbors, and your voice matters. It's just that your voice matters. This idea of like, oh no, like, okay, other people will make decisions. No, 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 no. Don't allow others to make decisions for yourself. Like, no, you have a voice. Use it. Use it. It's important to use our voices. If you don't agree
Yes.
with something, you know, I even just to, I don't know if I will make you laugh or not, but it makes me laugh sometimes. uh, my mom is here now because she's helping me with my baby. And sometimes, sometimes we're watching the news and she doesn't speak English. So we're translating certain things. And she's like, oh, why do people allow that to happen? If that will happen in Argentina, we all will be on the streets complaining. And I'm like, oh no, but Canadians are nice, they are nice, they follow certain structure. And just like, no, but they have a voice. And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely true. Maybe you don't need to go to the streets. Maybe there are
Yeah.
other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But like, I keep telling, when sometimes when immigrants ask me questions, or when I post something and people write comments, like, just use your voice. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
If we're not living, I don't know, in a dictatorship that you shouldn't be talking. And
Yeah.
if somebody gets
Yeah.
angry at you, they sometimes get angry at me and they tell you,
That's
like,
okay.
go back to your country. Yeah, that's okay. That's life. You will not go back to your country because somebody's telling you to go. So it's
Oh
just that.
God. Ah. It's I mean I understand people who just say that they don't want to talk. I also understand that because
Yeah,
you make a very very important point about how belonging takes time and it can play a role in how you feel about speaking up in a country because you
yeah,
feel like you're an outsider and so you judge yourself more harshly than others and you feel like you don't have the right to speak up or ask for better or at
yeah,
least say that this thing doesn't work, and that's okay. But like you say, but if you plan to live here for much longer and if you plan to make this your home, then you should actually speak up and say, hey, this could be a much better way of doing this, because then that way what you do is you help guarantee your future. That's what
exactly.
you do, you help guarantee your
Yeah.
future.
And I'm sorry, but even like sometimes people don't do it in a different way because they don't know. And with your vision, with your knowledge, and let's go back to your talents or whatever. Sometimes just asking a question help them to, hey, no, yeah, maybe this is a better way of doing
Yeah.
things. You lived in a different country or in a different culture, whatever, but you come to Canada with all those, I would say mental constructions, but with those culture components and social ideas and maybe economic financial pains. But you sometimes you just open your mouth and you ask a question, or you say, why don't we do it in this way? And they're like, wow, yeah, maybe you are right, maybe that's a great idea. I feel like what us as immigrants, sometimes what we think is, oh, if I open my mouth and say something that doesn't go well and that people don't like, uh, it will be a failure. They will not like me anymore. I will start having other issues. They will not include me. You have so many doubts, and it makes sense because you left everything that you knew behind. And this is a different arena. It's not the same that where you are used to. But
Yes. Yes.
sometimes it's just a matter of saying, hey, but I think that maybe we can do this, or we can do, I agree with you, but we can do it in a different way. And other people will be kind and they will be nice and they will think that you're right. It might not happen, right? It might not happen, but at least you are giving yourself the chance to
Yes.
to to express and to
Hmm.
to be honest. and to be authentic, and you're giving others the chance to know you, and maybe to think in a different way, to think, I don't know, it doesn't mean that it's outside of the box, but um yeah, it's just like when you lived in different places, or you were kind of going through situations that other people never imagined in their lives, you are, let's go back to that, you are more adaptable, you're
Hmm.
more empathetic, you understand certain needs that others might not. So it's good to be open. I feel like it's that sometimes it's not, oh, this person is too cocky, it's not that, you're just open and you're thinking, you're saying what you think, and it's good to be authentic. It's just that.
That's really good advice, honestly, because I feel like it's just getting over that hump of saying to yourself, "Are you worth listening to?" Because you are actually worth listening to as an immigrant.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter that you just came. Your
exactly.
voice is important. It's you when, and because when you're your real self, the society grows from it. You find yourself in the process, and you at least can say to yourself that you've contributed to the future of the country you're living in. Because I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that basically, is, are we going to sit down and just complain or keep quiet or say later in the future, oh, I thought this was going to fail, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah. That's so comfy, right? It's like, okay, it's like, okay, well, going back to Brené Brown, she has a quote, some long quote that she's like, you can only, something like, the whole idea is like, you can only tell me to do something if you've been in the arena, right? If you
Mm.
haven't, and you're just at, you're part of the audience, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, she will fail, oh, this will happen, oh, but you're not contributing and doing something, and you don't even know how it feels to be
Mm.
there doing that. So yeah, like, please don't add your comment, but if you really want to contribute, and you want to live a better life, and you think about your community and not just yourself, you think
Yeah.
about the well-being of the
Hmm.
society, okay, like we would say in Spanish, something like nos arremangamos, is like, okay, we kind of put our sleeves up, and we start wearing the jersey of our team, right? You start wearing the Canada jersey. You're like, I'm part of this team now.
Yeah.
So let's use our hands, our brain, our bodies, our souls, everything to contribute, and to make the changes that we feel we need. Sometimes we
Mm.
don't need changes in certain areas, but sometimes we do. So immigrants can contribute to that, can give, I feel like it's some sort of a different, it's not just a feeling, but and it's not just a perspective, it's like a different way of being, not just
Mm.
seeing the world, it's a different way of acting.
Mm.
And that's great, because you have people from over 100 countries, right? With so many, like, the ethnicities of this country is something, I don't know, it's just awesome. Think that I would have never thought when I was a kid living in Argentina that most of our grandparents came from the same countries, right? Yeah, and mostly European countries. And now people would ask me, what happened with the Aboriginal people? I don't have good news about what happened to the Aboriginal people in my country. So I have to say it, because the Spaniards did things that they shouldn't have done. So that is why our population, our indigenous population, is like 1%, it's like nothing. So I have to say that. But like, when most of our ancestors come from the same country, you never expect to be friends with people whose
From all over
grandparents
the
were born
world.
all over the world, right? You're like, you're now sitting having dinners with friends whose grandparents or even parents were born in China, in Korea, in Japan, in India, different South African countries, because there are
Yeah.
lots of South Africans here, right? In Greece, I have a friend from Turkey. I never imagined that in my life. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that
Oh
amazing
yeah,
that
it is. I think it is,
our
honestly. Like
country is doing that? Right? That you're like, my goodness. And I even love this thing that like we all have like different mother tongues, we all have different skin tones, but it
different
doesn't
accents.
matter. Different accents, it doesn't matter. And it's wonderful how a country can unite us. Of course that it can also do the opposite thing because
Oh
we
yeah.
see it. We see
Oh
it with
yeah. Oh
certain
yeah.
neighbors,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh
We
yeah.
see it.
Oh yeah.
But it's wonderful how a country can do that, can unite us, and we can be that mosaic that people keep talking about, like Canada, right, where you can see, okay, so many cultures
All in one
forming,
space.
yeah, one country. I just love it. I love the opportunity because I feel like I learn a lot daily
Mm, mm,
from people whose life experiences are so distant from me, but at the same time so close, sometimes
yeah.
when I say, oh, I miss, my aunt is cooking, all of my family members talking at the same time, we all scream, we are 100% Italian, like everybody's talking at the same time, and you're paying attention to the conversation with the person that is talking to you, but at the same time hearing what your uncle is saying, and you're like, no, 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 that's not true. So when I say all of that and say that our doors are always open and our tables are so long, people keep messaging me saying, hey, in my country is the same, in my country is the same, and they are from different countries. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that unites us, I'm learning
Yeah.
a lot from you, but we're also finding so many similarities between our
Yeah.
cultures, even though
Yes.
at the beginning they look so different, right?
Yeah. I think I always say to people that I think one of the biggest lessons I've gotten from doing this podcast is how different we are, but yet so similar.
I agree.
You know,
I
we're so
agree.
different, but we're so similar. Like that, it's such a paradox. Like because there are differences, but again, there are things that happen. You're like, wait, it happened to me too. We do like that too. You're like, wait, so what? Like I don't know, but it's fun and it humbles me because which is why I don't get as angry as I used to get before because I'm like I can't tackle those people with the same energy. But when I see people who trade on differences, it tires me out because I'm like, what are you like? What do you think you
Yeah,
are? Some superior human? You're not.
yeah,
You're not.
yeah.
You're not. You're very similar to other people in many ways than But humans will be humans, I guess.
Yeah. And of course that biases and all those things still exist. And unfortunately, we know that they will still exist for a long time. And we know that some people are against diversity metrics and all of that right now. And it's a shame. And but at the same time, when you find people that you're like, oh, it's so good to talk to you. Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? You just open, like you open certain door for me to see this in a different way, to understand it in a different way. Um, that's like, okay, the task is done, It's like, okay, we can be different, but we
Mm-hmm.
can find those similarities and we can also learn from each other and we can be
Yeah.
respectful. So yeah, I feel like that's all the bad things would always exist, but it's great when you find people that just want to focus on what's good, what's working, and how to make things get better. It's just that.
Yeah. 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 This is such a good place to end this. Gosh, yeah. Like I feel like
I
anyone who
love
gets part of this episode, this is like advice on how to be a better immigrant.
it.
A better confident immigrant.
You have to, you have to do it. And if you don't feel that you have the confidence, just laugh about it. I keep saying
Yeah.
that. I just like, okay, I can't remember these words in English. Just laugh about it. People will understand you. And if they don't, it's okay. You will have a great story to tell your friends or your kids or your coworkers, and you will
Yeah.
laugh after it. So it's just that. Don't
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
life is already stressful, and immigrating is so hard. It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
I wrote something yesterday and it said, immigrating takes bravery, but staying, oh my goodness, that you need lots of courage there,
That's the work.
you know?
That's the work.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
the
work.
work. You need lots
Yeah,
of courage. So
that's the work.
just focus on that. You're doing a great job, my friend. You are doing it. So don't worry about the rest.
All right, then. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. Like
No, thank
God, this
you.
was so
Thank
good.
you. I love that. I love the energy, and I love to laugh about it, but also to learn and to have this type of discussions because they are needed. That's the
Yes,
thing.
we need to have them.
They are
We
needed.
do.
Yeah, they
We need
are.
to have them. Thank you so much. That was good. Be yourself. The country needs you. Honestly, it does. Like, if you bring your full self to this place, I feel like we can all make it a much better place to live in. As always, thank you so much for getting to this point of the podcast. I really appreciate that. I really do. If you know someone who finds this useful, send to them. If you know someone I should talk to, send them my way. Like, share, subscribe. I mean, I'm also going to ask you that. Please, I really appreciate that. We're on Substack, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find us there. Enjoy.